Congratulations, you now own Las Vegas. The whole strip, the fountains of the Bellagio Hotel, the floors packed with slot machines, the bright lights stretching into the desert night. It's all yours. But before you imagine your vault filling with chips, the people who actually run this place already know. Gambling brings in only about a quarter of the money. In the last full financial year, the casino floor made just over 26% of strip casino revenue. The hotel rooms alone, just the beds people sleep in, earned more than every slot machine and blackjack table put together. That's over $7 billion from rooms, against $5.5 billion from the games. So where does the money really come from? Who pays for all the big shows and lights? And who, behind the town's biggest names, collects the one check that never stops growing? But before you spend a single cent, let's look at what the people who actually run this place are doing right now. So what exactly did you just sign for? Let's walk the floor. You just took over 51 huge casino resorts. Total money made last year, over $21 billion. The workers, over 92,000 people. That's a small city reporting to you. Every single shift. And those rooms don't fill themselves. The average price for a room each night is about $250, and the Strip's hotels are almost 90% full on any given night. This machine never stops, and the cost of keeping the doors open is the first thing any real operator has to face. Remember, this whole operation is yours now, and it costs a huge amount just to stay open. The 51 casinos on your strip employed over 92,000 people last year, and those rooms need to be full tonight. Otherwise, the money starts draining away. And the biggest cost you'll never see coming is the rent. Because a lot of the casinos with your name on the big sign outside, you don't actually own the buildings. So with an operation this size, you'd think the casino floor is what pays for all of it. And for decades, that was true. But not anymore, and it hasn't been since 1999. That was the year the non-gambling side first earned more. Now it brings in nearly 74% of the money. The rooms earned $7.1 billion. Food, nearly $4 billion. Drinks, over $1.5 billion. Everything else, nearly $3 billion more. The casino floor is the most famous part of the building, but it's not what pays the bills anymore. The real operators are running a hotel and entertainment empire that happens to keep a gambling floor in the lobby. Now, just because gambling isn't the main moneymaker anymore doesn't mean the floor gives money away. The math still works, and it works the same way it always has. The house edge is a small percentage used on a huge scale. In double zero roulette, the house has about a 5.3% advantage. In blackjack against an average player, about 2%. Slot machines on the strip hold close to 8%. For every $100 put into the machine, the house keeps roughly $7.90. Any one player can walk out a winner tonight, but the crowd, multiplied across millions of bets a day on your 51 floors, cannot. A 2% edge over billions of dollars in play adds up to billions a year. The floor isn't fake, it's just the side business. But the math on the floor is only half the story. The real tracking happens before you even sit down. You receive an email offering a free suite at one of your casinos, and the free suite in your inbox was priced by a computer system. So the casino floor is a side business and the math never loses. But that still doesn't explain who's paying for the free suite in your inbox. Here's how it works. Casinos rate every player who uses a loyalty card on something called theoretical loss. Here's the formula. Average bet times hands played per hour times hours played times the house edge. This isn't what you actually lost. It's what a model says you should lose, whether you got lucky or not. Comps, the free room, the dinner, the show tickets, are a return of about 30% of that expected loss. The free room is a discount on the loss a computer system already calculated you'd bring in. One big operator on the strip, Caesars Entertainment, built a loyalty database of 45 million members using exactly this method. That database was valued at around $1 billion, more than any single casino. It let staff greet players by name, direct them to their favorite game, and notice when someone was playing below their full ability. This data-driven marketing was credited with bringing in 22% more revenue than competitors. The "We miss you" email with the suite offer lands in your inbox before you've booked the flight. And there's another source of money that doesn't need you to gamble at all. In fact, it lands on your bill before you've even stepped into the casino. Nearly every strip hotel now charges a required resort fee, $35 to $55 a night, on top of the room price you saw, and parking, which was well known for being free for decades, now costs hotel guests about $20 a day. The industry calls it found money because raising it costs them nothing. Another big operator, MGM Resorts, raised these fees across all its strip properties in December to 2024. The Bellagio and Aria hotels jumped to $55 a night, MGM Grand and Mandalay Bay to $50, the cheaper hotels to $45. Valet parking hit $40. Self-parking $20 to $25, and they raised them during months when gambling revenue was already falling. A room that was advertised at $99 becomes roughly $155 when you check out, before you ever gamble a dollar. Now here's a problem every owner of a desert city has to face. Where does the water come from? And the answer is stranger than you'd think. Las Vegas sits in the Mojave Desert. About 90% of its water comes from the Colorado River through Lake Mead. That lake has dropped about 160 feet since 2000. You'd think the Strip would use a huge amount of water, but the top 5 casinos together used about 2.2 billion gallons in a recent year, roughly 6% of the region's total. And most of the water they use indoors gets cleaned and sent right back to the lake. But here's what the tourists never see. The fountains of the Bellagio Hotel, the most famous water show on Earth, pull about 12 million gallons a year from a private well. That well came with the land. It used to water a golf course. Steve Wynn, the casino developer who later built the Bellagio, bought the Old Dunes Casino and its golf course in 1992. The well came with the deal. Not a single drop of that fountain show touches the Colorado River. The machine found a way around the desert so the famous view could keep selling. So the rooms earn more than the tables, the fees are almost pure profit, and the water show runs on a golf course well. But the biggest change on the Strip isn't inside a casino at all. So far we've looked at how each resort makes money, but the biggest play today isn't even inside a casino. It's the city itself marketed as an event destination. Conventions are the quiet giant. In 2024, about 6 million convention visitors came to town. They brought an economic impact of roughly $16 billion and supported about 70,000 jobs. These are people who fill hotels, eat at restaurants, and never touch a slot machine. Then come the big events. The Super Bowl drew over 300,000 visitors who each spent about $2,600, double the typical visitor. Formula One, racing right on the Strip, claimed an economic impact of roughly $1 billion a year. And the Sphere, that giant glowing ball, it cost $2.3 billion to build. It's the most expensive entertainment venue in Vegas history. The outside of it, the Exosphere, is the largest LED screen on Earth, and it's a billboard. A single day of advertising on that screen cost about $450,000. The city now sells attention itself, and none of it needs a bet. Earlier we hinted there's a catch about what exactly you own. Here it is. Everything we've seen so far, the side business casino floor, the fee machine, the convention machine, all of it runs on land the casinos don't own. And the rent is the biggest cost nobody sees. The biggest names on the Strip are renters. They sold their real estate to a company most visitors have never heard of, VICI Properties. VICI was born out of a casino financial collapse, the financial reorganization of Caesars Entertainment in 2017. Then it bought its main rival for over $17 billion. That rival was another company of the same type, a real estate investment trust, which owns land and collects rent. Today, it owns roughly 660 acres. That land holds about 12 Strip resorts and venues: Caesars Palace, the Venetian, MGM Grand, Mandalay Bay, T-Mobile Arena, even the land under the Sphere. And the leases are tough. They're triple net, meaning the casino pays the rent, plus the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance. And the rent bills are huge. MGM's main lease with VICI starts at $860 million a year. The term is 25 years with a 2% annual increase for the first 10 years. Bellagio was sold for over $4 billion and rented back for $245 million a year. Caesars pays about $1.1 billion a year in initial rent across its VICI leases. The Venetian, the property originally built and operated by Las Vegas Sands, was sold for over $6 billion. VICI took the real estate for $4 billion. The operator now pays VICI $250 million a year in rent. Sands, the company that built the Venetian, left Las Vegas entirely. The big sign says MGM, Caesars, Venetian, but behind each one sits a landlord collecting rent whether the tables win or lose. The most certain bet in Vegas is the lease. So you've taken over a machine. The casino is a side business. The fees are found money, and the biggest cost? Rent. You can't get lowered. Here's what happens when the crowd gets smaller. 2025 was the worst year for visitors since the recovery from the pandemic. About 38.5 million visitors came, down 7.5% from the year before. Canadian travel collapsed, with the Canadian Airlines passengers to Vegas down nearly 30%, and the profit machine stopped working. Across those 51 big Strip casinos, profit fell 81%, from over $800 million to just $154 million, and total revenue only dropped by 3.7%. And this is where it gets strange. How full the hotels were actually went up slightly. The problem wasn't empty rooms, it was that every cost in the machine is fixed. Remember those fee increases from MGM in December 2024? They raised them during months when gambling revenue was already falling. The found money, those fees we talked about that cost nothing to raise, was a balance against a shrinking crowd. And the rent, that $860 million main lease, the $1.1 billion in Caesars rent, it goes up by contract. The landlords don't care if fewer people showed up this year. The check is the same, plus the 2% increase. A few percent of revenue disappeared, and 4/5 of the profit went with it. The system broke itself. So that's your Las Vegas. The casino floor is a side business. The rooms alone earn more than the tables. The free suite in your inbox was priced by a computer system before you booked the flight. The resort fee on your bill is found money that costs nothing to raise. The fountains run on a golf course well. And the biggest winner on the strip? The landlord you've never heard of, collecting rent that goes up every year no matter how the dice fall. You just took over a fixed-cost resort machine with a gambling-themed lobby, and the rent is due whether 42 million people show up or 38 million do. Congratulations! Now you know where the money really is. Take notes. The next rent increase hits in January.